Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to talk a little bit about the Glock Gen vasectomy, okay, and why Glock most likely capitulated to the anti-gunners. Okay, so this is a Gen 3. I have no intention of buying the vasectomy version of Glock. In fact, I've got so many of these Bomber 80s that I have built. It'll probably last me several lifetimes. Okay, so the question that we've been asking is, why did Glock capitulate? And I've done a couple of videos on this, and people in the comments have been saying that it's because they were trying to avoid the legal expenses on a gun or design that's out of patent. Okay, and had a chance to think about that, and I think that's absolutely incorrect, because a company like Glock has full-time lawyers on its staff. Okay, I mean, not just one or two, but like dozens of them. Okay, so they're paying those lawyers anyway. Many years ago, when I first started out as an accountant, I worked for a relatively small company. I mean, I think it was like a $200 million company, and we had like 2 full-time lawyers on the staff. And most of the time, it seemed like they weren't doing anything. Okay, so once in a while, we needed them to look over some legal stuff, and it was just a lot cheaper to have them on a staff on the staff full time, rather than go to an outside legal firm to do the work for us. Okay, so and if that's a small, that was a small company that only did like 200 million a year gross. A company like Glock is like literally going to have dozens and dozens of lawyers. Different lawyers that specialize in different things. Okay, so the legal cost of defending this for Glock, which already has full-time lawyers, would have been minuscule. Okay, so absolutely not. That's not it. Okay, and the thing is, I mean, you might even say, well, what if Glock lost this? Okay, Glock could have. These lawyers could have tied this thing up for decades. Okay, so this thing, it would not have been resolved anytime soon. So the reason why I think Glock went along and capitulated with the to the anti-gunners is because they strategically wanted to eliminate the clone competition from the market. Okay, because there's lots of companies out there. Two that I can think of offhand, Polymer 80 and Ruger, that are making like Glock clones, and there's no reason why I think anybody should buy this when this is available. Okay, this is much better. I mean, I shoot guns every day. I mean, I'd much rather be shooting this than this on any day. Okay, so I think Glock's aware of that, and it doesn't matter what new versions Glock comes out with. Okay, Gen V for vasectomy, Gen 6, whatever. None of those are actually gonna justify the extra expense of buying those guns and not just staying with these guns. Okay, so I think that the reason why, basically, what Glock is using this lawsuit from the anti-gunners to eliminate the competition. So, which I think is like very underhanded. It's it's basically a very down and dirty thing to do, and I do not like it. I never loved Glock, the company. I mean, I always liked the Glock design. Okay, the Glock internal design of how these guns work, but I never liked Glock, the company, and this makes me like them even less. And this makes me definitely not want to buy any Glocks. Okay, so I will go out of my way to buy Glock clones, but I will not buy Glocks. Okay, so yeah, so like I said, I had a chance to think about it, and it was actually not my idea. Somebody posted it in the comments, because most people in the comments of the prior videos that I made were talking about the legal costs. Now, thinking about it as somebody that has been in, worked for companies that had full-time lawyers on staff, it doesn't cost them anything. Okay, in fact, one of the great things about working for a company that has lawyers on staff is, because remember, I was an accountant, but I had a good enough relationship with them that if I had any legal questions or if I needed, I could go over to them and I could get them to do some stuff for me. We could kind of exchange favors like that. So, that's the kind of stuff that happens when you got like full-time lawyers on your staff. So yeah, the legal expenses for Glock would have been like close to zero, above what they're already paying for their salaries, right? So that's not the issue. Glock used this opportunity to try and eliminate the competition that they were getting from the Glock Gen 3s that were out of patent, right? Because here's the thing, they were coming out with this Gen vasectomy version. Why would anybody want to buy that, right? When you can go to why would anybody? I had no incentive whatsoever to go buy that. Okay, so I think that's the reason why they wanted to get rid of them. So, yeah, if you guys think differently, please let me know. But I have absolutely no intention of buying this Glock V version or anything else that Glock produces. I'm curious to see what Ruger does, because Ruger got a cease and desist letter. Okay, I'm curious to see if Ruger is going to also capitulate. Now, Ruger has a history of doing so, right? Because about, 10, 15 years ago, there was an issue that came up with magazine limits, and Ruger actually capitulated, yielded to the anti-gunners. And there's a lot of people to this day that will not buy Rugers because of that. So I suspect that Ruger is going to bend the knee. Sooner or later, they're going to come around to Palmetto Dagger, which is also a Glock Gen 3 clone, and I want to see what Palmetto does. I have a lot of faith and hope that Palmetto State Armory is going to fight this. Okay, and again, a company the size of Palmetto, they're going to have full-time lawyers on staff. Okay, and they could just tie them up and frustrate them for years. So this goes both ways. It's not just the lawyers of the anti-gunners that can frustrate the gun companies, but the gun company lawyers can also frustrate the anti-gun lawyers. And like I said, they're getting paid anyway. Whether they sit there at their desks, playing video games, when they're not busy, or giving the anti-gunners a hard time. They're getting paid anyway. So I'd rather have them working, fighting back against the anti-gunners. Okay, so looking forward to see what Palmetto State Armory does. Hope they fight them. I have a couple of Dagger slides. I've not actually bought any of the frames. I've basically been using some of the slides on my Palmer 80 frames. The complete frames are only like $50, so it is actually my intention to get one of those and try it out. It's just one of those. Like I never had an incentive to do it, just because I've built so many of these P80s. But now that this is in the news, and hopefully Palmetto's going to be fighting it, I think I should get a frame, put it on one of those Dagger slides, and this way I got something to talk to you guys about. Okay, so drop some comments. Let me know what you think. I'll talk to y'all soon. Oh, one more thing I want to say. With regards to these Gen vasectomies, because they have shipped a few of them out at this point, and we've had a chance to kind of look at them. They have a similar backplate design, slightly different cut, and I really do hope that people get busy, right, developing a switch for the Gen vasectomy, okay? Because I would love to stick it to Glock and the anti-gunners like that. So I'm a big fan of switches, right? Even though I don't have any, I love the idea that they're out there, okay? Now, a lot of times people will say that the switches are not practical because the gun's not controllable. Guys, it's fun, okay? Full auto is fun. Now, I've not shot switches. What has happened to me is I've accidentally, when I was building some of these Gen 3s, I accidentally installed the plunger spring in sideways, which makes the firing pin get stuck forward, and that causes the gun to slam fire. So that basically simulates full auto. And I can tell you guys that the gun is controllable. Okay, don't let anybody tell you that it's not controllable. You just gotta lean into it, and it's a lot of fun to shoot. So again, unintentional. I immediately corrected the error. Okay, but don't let anybody tell you that it's not controllable. I mean, it may not be controllable by people that don't have any experience shooting, okay? But if you happen to accidentally put that spring in sideways and the firing pin gets stuck forward and the gun slam fires, the gun is controllable, okay? You just gotta lean into it, okay? So drop some comments. Talk to you all soon.